Does Resident Evil 9 star Leon and Jill featuring Chris and Barry? Are they chased around an island by goat men, a Mr. X-like character, and moon-worshipping zombies? I mean, is Wesker coming back? All these things we hope as Resident Evil fans. We don't know whether or not to believe anything we read on Reddit or Twitter, but in this video, we're going to discuss my hopes, my dreams, and my thoughts on all these leaks on the internet and whether or not they're true. Let's dive in. If you're a fan of Resident Evil and you use the website Reddit or Twitter and you find yourself on these leaks that are supposedly made by game testers of the game, it's hard to know whether or not they're credible. But they've been pretty consistent on saying things like Resident Evil 9 is going to be based around Leon and Jill, with Barry and Chris being supporting characters. But we don't really know if any of this is true yet. And I hope that we find out in 2025, because 2023 was the year of Resident Evil 4 Remake, and that game was fantastic. That game checked off all the boxes that it needed to check, and it made the slapstick / corny Resident Evil 4 dialogue, made it very serious, and the narrative was right on for the way Leon conducted himself, and the way that someone that had experienced Raccoon City in the worst time of its existence before being, blown up, should behave themselves. Like he navigated conversations with trauma and gave himself medicine in the form of humor. The delivery was amazing, and it was so good. Now, I understand that Leon is a good main protagonist for the series because of how he was subjected to the world of Resident Evil. So it would make sense that Resident Evil 9 would star him. But Jill, in my opinion, and Chris are my favorite characters of the franchise because that's how I was introduced to the game. The mansion, in my opinion, is the scariest experience you could have because of the close corridors. And I'm personally more excited to hear more about a remake of Resident Evil 1. I'm not talking about the GameCube version. I'm talking about the Resident Evil Engine version that will probably scare everyone to death. But anyway, that's not what this video is about. This video is about Resident Evil 9. And I think that they're holding their cards close to their chest because they've been on the cusp of taking the big prize with every release that they've had for the last little bit. So if you look at like Resident Evil 2 from 2019, the remake, it was nominated for Game of the Year, Best Game Direction, Best Audio Design, and Best Action Adventure Game. So it got nominated for all these, but it didn't win any of them. And it was going up against contenders like God of War and Red Dead Redemption 2. I get that. Those were hard to beat. But Resident Evil 2 Remake came in with like the massive hit. It's undeniably a great remake, no doubt about it. Then all that Resident Evil 3 Remake got was nomination for Best Audio Design. And yeah, the game wasn't really a faithful remake, and there's been tons of reports on that as to why it was. Resident Evil Village got Most Anticipated Game. It got nominated for Game of the Year. It got nominated for Best Audio Design, Best Action Adventure Game, but no wins. It got some VR awards later on, but that's not, in my opinion, the same thing. A VR experience is really nice and all, but yeah, we want Resident Evil to take the big prize home. So my thing is, for them to be as hush-hush as they are about this, I think they're going big. I want them to go big. We've had a beloved franchise get so close so many times, and I think that they can do it. They just have to look at some of the formulas that some other survival horrors have laid out in front of them with narratives. Like The Last of Us, for example, Last of Us 1 and 2. Huge fans of both The Last of Us and Resident Evil as a franchise. And I think that the characters are deep enough in the Resident Evil universe to deliver something similar of The Last of Us. But the thing I'm worried about the most is if we lose people or not. Because the problem that we have in Resident Evil as it stands, and I'm not saying that it needs this, but maybe it does. I don't know. some of the gravity missing from the characters are romance and legacy. They, like, as far as I know, the only character that has children, besides like Wesker, which we don't want to talk about Resident Evil 6 at all today. Barry Burton has daughters, and you've played as Mora in Revelations 2. And that was interesting and all, but I don't know of Chris Redfield having children, Jill having children, Leon and Ada never, I don't know if they've ever done it, like anything at all. I mean, that's probably a lot of fan art that says that they've finally hooked up, but they're more rivals than lovers, if we're being honest with each other. And like, that's sad to me. We need the more human side of these characters to come out and give us some connections to things other than killing and violence. And, we need to humanize them just a little bit. So there's gravity of the loss, because all we have to show for them is just these roles as heroes in games. So regardless of everything that I've just discussed, if all the Resident Evil 9 leaks are reportedly true, we are in for a very fun time. Now, on the other side of this card is the internet trying to debunk and say that none of this is true, which, I mean, every source could be debunked because nothing's official yet. There's not been any trailers. There's not been any press release stuff shown to us at all. So all of this is still pretty much a mystery. I mean, really, they could just be feeding people false information. People have found really interesting ways to stop data mining. And people have found ways to stop leaks from happening as a whole with companies. Like, for example, you notice I'm wearing a Cobra Kai t-shirt. They filmed alternate endings to the show because people on set sneaking cell phones in and taking pictures and leaking them online as to what happens. So the internet has their work cut out for them. You never know. It could be completely different. Everything that we've seen so far might absolutely be false. While I do think that the Goat Man thing chasing Jill around would be interesting, and a Mr. X type character chasing Leon around again would be fun. It's going to be a little bit more nostalgic for Leon to be chased again. But what I personally would like to see from Resident Evil 9, I want to see an open world. I want to see lots of destruction again. I think that we've been robbed from exploring the true carnage caused by Umbrella and or the other subsidiary companies or the other allied axis of evil that spawned from their works. You look at some of the playscapes of open world games that, like Days Gone, for example, or Last of Us 2, when you have big open areas to explore. I would love a world like Resident Evil, where you get to explore Raccoon City, in a massive open world area, I think we were robbed that in Resident Evil 3 Remake. It was lots and lots of running and action, and we got a lot of streets and things closed off that could have, gave us a whole bigger picture as to the world that, that they're in. I hope it's a big place. I hope we get to explore, because I think that's nice. Resident Evil 4 Remake was the closest to an open world that we've got. I think the village part of Resident Evil 4 was nice, all the way even up to the castle. But where I always fall off on the exploration part of that game is when you start fighting the people in the military camp. So that's my 2 cents. If we get a big open world and a lot of things that are, explorable, I think we'll have a better time. But yeah, if you haven't seen the leaks, I'm not trying to perpetuate that, but go read them. Give me your thoughts in the comments. I personally am excited regardless of what we get, because the world of Resident Evil is, if you really think about it, it was the first franchise to break through and get to a a movie slash transformative part of media where it broke free from just games. I think it was the first. If we don't count the Super Mario Brothers movie in the 80s. Now, somebody feel free to correct me in the comments on that too. But it's a literal cash cow when it comes to creation. It's a great world to make content in. Now, I think the Netflix show kind of bombed. I think that all the movies that came out. Now, I did like Welcome to Raccoon City. I want to go. Feel free to roast me for that one. I enjoyed Welcome to Raccoon City. I know that Leon was probably mismanaged in that, and that made a lot of people upset. But if he gets a redemption arc in the next movie, maybe it'll be better. But I don't know. There's a lot right with Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City more than there was wrong. But I get it. If you are a Leon fan, you probably didn't like that one. But if you're a Chris Redfield fan like I am, see, I like Chris and Wesker. They go all the way back for me. That is the original, like, that's the protagonist and antagonist in my mind. And I know that it got resolved in Resident Evil 5, but a guy can dream that he comes back one day, you know? I don't know. That's just me. I could go on and on about a franchise that I love, and I'm going to make more videos covering Resident Evil. But, yeah. I hope that we get something good from Resident Evil 9. I really do. We need it. As Capcom fans, we need it. Thank you so much for watching this video about Resident Evil. Feel free to like and subscribe. This is Igor from Igor's Lair, and enjoy the rest of your day.